I was born with a curse, a barren womb. For 3 years, I endured the grueling cycle of IVF. Finally, on the 12th attempt, my prayers were answered. I was pregnant. Elated, I rushed to share the news with Walter Dickerson. But as I approached the door to the private room, my feet stopped moving. Inside, he was laughing with his friends. Damn, Walter, swapping the eggs? That's ruthless. Even for you. One of his buddies guffawed. If your wife finds out she went through hell just to carry another woman's child, she'll snap, won't she? Walter didn't answer. The silence stretched, thick and deliberate, before his deep, indifferent voice drifted through the crack in the door. If she hadn't used underhanded tricks to force Charlotte out back then, Charlotte wouldn't have left me. Jessica should feel honored to carry a child made from my and Charlotte's DNA. The blood drained from my face. Cold seeped into my bones, spreading through my chest like ice water. The husband I loved with every fiber of my being saw me as nothing more than an incubator for the one that got away. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Numbly, I pulled out my phone. I scheduled an abortion, booked a one-way plane ticket for 3 days later. If he wanted the pass so badly, I would give it to him. I would disappear. Charlotte is too fragile to handle the strain of pregnancy, he told me. As it turns out, the thousands of injections I endured and the constant burning irritation on my skin were never about our future. I was merely being used as a birthing vessel for his true love. At that realization, a chill seeped into my very marrow. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Inside the room, the sound of mocking laughter continued, and to my horror, Charlotte was right there in the middle of it. The group took turns belittling me, calling me shameless and saying I wasn't even worthy of being in the same room. And my husband, the man who had held me so tenderly the night before, whispering that I was his one and only, remained silent through it all. He sat there, perfectly composed, as Charlotte made herself at home on his lap. The most bitter irony? Walter, who always claimed to have a life-threatening alcohol allergy, downed a glass of hard liquor for her without a second thought. I realized then that his allergy was selective. It only seemed to flare up when he needed me to step in as his designated driver or drink in his place. Fighting back a wave of nausea, I retreated to the hallway and dialed his number. It failed again, I said, my voice sounding hollow even to my own ears. He sounded concerned on the other end, but his words were a final lethal blow. Honey, you love me more than anyone. Just be patient and try one last time, okay? I just want a child that belongs to us. My heart shattered completely. The moment I hung up, I heard his voice through the door, followed by a dismissive scoff. Useless. Failed again. I packed my suitcases one by one, filling them with my growing despair. The jewelry I once cherished as precious gifts now looked like nothing more than insulting handouts. Numbly, I swiped across my screen to schedule a procedure to terminate the pregnancy and booked a one-way flight for 3 days later. At the same time, a text from an unknown number popped up. You heard everything, didn't you? I didn't bother replying. Instead, I began tossing his gifts into the trash. If he was so desperate to return to the past, I would give him exactly what he wanted. I would vanish, taking his precious legacy with me. With a sharp clink, my engagement ring, the one still carrying the faint mark of the day he nearly died protecting it, hit the floor. Back then, he had faced a violent attack just to keep that ring safe, swearing he would never leave me. Looking back, that devotion was nothing more than a cheap performance to pass the time until his real love came home. In the early hours of the morning, Walter crawled into bed, reeking of booze and covered in hives. In the past, I would have stayed up to carefully apply ointment to his skin. This time, I just watched him with cold, detached eyes. When he realized I wasn't going to wait on him, he bolted upright, his gaze piercing and cruel. You're a failure who can't even give me a child. Who gave you the right to throw a tantrum? With that final insult, he slammed the door and stormed out. The next day, I walked into the clinic with total resolve. Even when the doctor warned me that the procedure could lead to permanent infertility, I didn't hesitate. Before the surgery, I called Walter 22 times.